Have you ever noticed that some stocks go up really quick and then they come right back down again? Well, what is it that causes a stock to go up so much, so fast that it can't sustain those price levels? I'll explain why. Plus, I'll do my analysis of the overall markets, and then we'll look at the day trade of the week. That's all coming up in this week's Stockscores Market Minutes. All right, we've seen those stocks that go up really fast and then they come right back down again, or even very accomplished companies might go up for a year or two and then have a big correction. In the long term, the stock market's pretty efficient at finding the right price. But in the short term, there can be a lot of volatility on the way to the right price. And that's because ultimately the thing that is trading the stock market are humans. Now, yes, there's computers trading the stock market, but the computers are there to take advantage of the humans, and in some cases, they perpetuate the human emotion that is in the market. You see, some stocks don't have enough shares outstanding to support the amount of buying interest in that stock. Or there may be a mania where people are clamoring to own something not for rational reasons, but because of the fear of missing out. And that causes them to chase these stocks dramatically higher. Now, it's pretty easy to see when a market or a stock is priced irrationally, because the trend will look like a curve rather than a straight line. So the stock goes up so fast that it has what we call a parabolic upward trend line. And when that happens, you have to be very wary. Certainly don't be a buyer of parabolic trends, and look for the sell signal if you own a stock that is in a parabolic trend. Now, let me show you an example of this. Here's a stock that went up extremely quickly. You know, a normal linear trend would be sort of along this line, and this stock just went up, had a little correction, went up, and when it breaks the upward trend line, it's because the bubble is bursting. The stock has gone up so fast, probably on hype, probably on the fact that it doesn't have a lot of shares outstanding. And when that trend is broken and the confidence of speculators is broken, the stock comes right back down to earth. Now, the company is still worth more than it was when it started. You know, when it started, it was trading down here. And by the time the bubble has burst and the things have sorted out, it's significantly higher. But all of this stuff in the middle here is because of human emotion, supply-demand issues in the market, and that's what causes these stocks to go up. I'm not saying don't trade these stocks because they can make you a lot of money. Just realize you got to be a seller when the bubble bursts. All right, let's get into this week's market analysis, starting off with the S&P 500. All right, starting off with the 3-year weekly chart of the S&P 500. You can see the buyers are in control, the bottoms are rising. And although we had a little bit of a lull this week on very light volume, that's largely because it was a holiday. It's also the end of the quarter, and so there's not as much news flow as we will start to get again this coming week. But the trend is up, and that's a good thing. Let's take a look at the short-term chart just to get a sense of that time frame. And you can see there a little bit of weakness in the last couple of days, but still the trend is up. All right, moving along to the Canadian market, T.XIU is the symbol for the TSX. And it's a very different chart for the TSX over the S&P because we've got a market that's been sideways for basically all of this year and a good part of last year. It held up better when the market sold off, but it really hasn't gone up as much, and it's just kind of stuck in this range. So it's been a pretty sleepy market in Canada. If we go to the short-term chart, 1 month, 60-minute, you can see this week we had some good strength and then gave it back a little bit at the end of the week. It's kind of a neutral chart when you look at the big picture here. It's sort of stuck in this sideways range. All right, moving along to commodities, GLD. Long-term chart, it's still in something of an upward trend, although the last 2 months it's been down. It's the short-term trend that's weak. You can see the bearishness there. On to oil, USO. And there's that long-term chart, kind of stuck in a trading range, but a little bit of encouraging action. You see this week just up a little bit. That'll show up on the short-term chart. A little bit of strength at the end of the week. And I noticed when I was doing market scans on Stockscores in search of opportunities, there was quite a few energy names that came up. Now, I won't say that their charts were great, but they were getting better. And I think it may be time to maybe nibble a little bit on some energy names, but I wouldn't certainly go into that wholeheartedly. All right, let's go to US dollar, UUP. And you can see it's stuck in a sideways range. In the short term, it is sideways, fairly neutral. Bitcoin has been strong the last month or so, and you can see that this week it continued to have a little bit of upward momentum. There, kind of slowed from the big run that we had here, but it certainly hasn't broke down yet. And so I think short-term traders can still keep an eye on this sector. So my rating, let's finally look at interest rates, TBT. There is the interest rate chart. You see the jump in interest rates this week, that spike there, that indicates there's a good chance interest rates are going to rise. The bond market predicting that to be the case. And of course, we had comments on the Fed minutes this week that they may not be done raising interest rates. So the bond market reflects that with a bit of a strong move the last 4 or 5 days. All right, so then my ratings: US stocks bullish both time frames, Canadian stocks neutral, long-term bearish short-term, gold neutral, long-term bearish short-term. Oil, US dollar, Bitcoin neutral on all time frames. You could argue that Bitcoin is actually bullish in the short term. Certainly it's got some upward momentum there, and interest rates neutral but slightly bullish in the short term. All right, let's go to the day trade of the week, and here we see a stock that was very abnormal on Friday. It really has a lot of the ingredients I look for in the day trade. It was extremely liquid, extremely abnormal, surprised the market with strength on Friday, and is also a low float stock, meaning it doesn't have a lot of shares outstanding, and that makes it easier to go higher. So when we look at this chart, you can see that we had a gap up at the open. There you can see the abnormal volume. There's your action candle indicator breaking from a pennant. After the gap, I'd prefer to see it go a little longer, but it's such a strong chart in terms of how abnormal the stock was. That was good. There's also a pullback play entry there, and it made a nice little run over the course of an hour and a half, perhaps, moving from $4, I guess, up to $5.50 in that short time period. So that was a good little day trade. Markets were pretty quiet last week for day trading, but I expect it will pick up as perhaps we get that summer rally, much like we did last year. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed this week's Stockscores Market Minutes. If so, click on the like button, leave a comment, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. And as always, trade well.